Welcome, everybody. This is the Pod Squadron podcast. We are the show about all things Star Wars, coming from books, media, TV, animation, games, and everything else under the stars and suns in your life. So, once again, we're here to introduce.
Really?
We're off to an early start.
Dude!
Every time.
It's a theme now. It's something you gotta do.
It's just our running shtick.
He's back! He's back!
Yes. Amazing, I know. And we also have...
Like rain on your wedding day.
So ironic. We also have the lovely nerd girl, Tracy. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm drinking cider, so I'm fantastic.
That's your spotchka? Gotcha. And we also have joining us again, Lexi Lee. How are you doing today?
It's been a busy week. It's good to be back, guys, especially for this episode.
Good. So really quickly, Thanksgiving just passed. How is everyone feeling? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to all.
Yeah, it's the holidays now. We cannot escape it.
I know, right?
Anybody get anything awesome for Black Friday? No?
I did not brave the stores yet.
The online stores?
I bought a onesie.
Hey.
It's a blue leopard onesie. It's from like a small company, and it's really good for doing aerial and yoga and stuff in. So support small businesses.
Fashion show.
You guys got to have me back on because it's not here yet.
I'll say this too. I encourage everyone to, as you're thinking of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, also remember Giving Tuesdays. Please support your favorite nonprofit. And on Giving Tuesday, if you donate via Facebook, I believe Facebook is matching all donations up to $7 million for various organizations that are donated to. So my organization, East West Players, does have a fundraiser that is up. So if you can look for that, I'll share it. Go ahead and share that via Chinese Pirate Productions on all of my accounts, as well as the East West Players page. But yes, every donation will be matched on the morning of Giving Tuesday, the December 1st.
I knew nothing about that. I've never heard of Giving Tuesday, actually.
Oh yeah,
I hadn't either, so it's good to know.
Yeah, a lot of nonprofits kind of turned it into a thing, so it's just kind of a way to kind of focus on philanthropy after we do all of our shopping.
Good. And so nobody really got anything. I have a little something I got from this whole Black Friday that's been going on an entire month this year. But I'll show it to you a little later. But yeah, it's been a pretty good year so far in terms of shopping online, I guess. So I picked up a little something, not online, but I found out about it online, and I'll show you that later. But I want to go ahead and get right into it this week. We have a lot of stuff to go over, especially with the awesomeness that just happened in the last episode of The Mandalorian. Lots to piece together, a lot to really go into. I've got some feelings on it. I know Andy and Lexi do as well. So to start us off, let's get a little feature on one of our characters that showed up. The name Ahsoka Tano. See, there's a misspelling somewhere on one of these things where it says ASH, and that's not how it's spelled. So I almost said Ashoka. Ahsoka Tano. Anyway, Ahsoka Tano is finally here. People have been waiting on her debut to The Mandalorian. Some people who are new to Star Wars or only know Star Wars from the films really didn't know that much about her, but she's an important figure. So just to kind of set the tone, a little history, a little backstory, and a feature, we have Lexi Lee presenting us with our feature on a brief history of Ahsoka Tano. Lexi, take it away.
All right, so this is definitely abridged because there is so much on our girl here. If anybody notices that I miss anything that you guys find particularly important, please feel free to chime in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. Ahsoka, so her major appearances. We first see her in the Clone Wars movies in the series. We see her in Star Wars Rebels. She gets in my opinion, really disappointing voiceover in The Last Jedi at the very end of it. She gets a novel, which I haven't read yet, and I need to get on that. Yeah, that's going on my wish list this holiday season for sure. And then I noticed that they have some little Star Wars shorts, and she's featured in those, and I haven't had a chance to watch them yet, but little like 2-3 minute shorts. So she gets featured a lot. Who is she? She is H.O. Gruden, female Force user. If you notice, she was born on the planet Shili. She was recruited by Master Plo Koon to the Jedi Order at an early age. Is the former Padawan apprentice to Anakin Skywalker, big one right there, and is currently unaffiliated with any Force-using organization. She's a big deal because she's one of the first female Jedi to get any real character development or any major plot arcs. A lot of people who are not super familiar with the Star Wars verse were kind of surprised at this first major inclusion of a Jedi here in Mandalorian, but it actually does make a lot of sense that she'd be our first Jedi in this series because she's got a history of associating with key Mandalorians like Sabine Wren and Bo-Katan Kryze.
Well, and also, of course, like the history of Mandalore, too. She figures in very importantly in a couple of storylines. I'll quickly say I did actually get the chance to... I didn't read the Ahsoka novel. I did the audiobook, which is great because it's actually read by Ashley Eckstein. Eckstein?
I don't know.
By the voice actress who actually performs her in all of the animated series. So one little addition here. An important reason why was she assigned to Anakin Skywalker as a Padawan, and this was kind of a key thing that was brought up in the Clone Wars film, where Mace Windu and Yoda believed that Anakin was reckless and he was becoming more involved in the war, and they were like, you know what, if we assign him a Padawan, he will be responsible for someone, he'll learn responsibility, and also hopefully he will become less reckless because he's responsible for someone. He'll also have to learn how to let go of his attachments, because watching a Padawan grow up and become a knight and leave him would be a great lesson and a great opportunity for both of them to learn. So they basically took the most reckless Padawan and the most reckless, newly knighted Jedi Knight and put them together thinking this will fix itself.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
And they figured out that, fighting fire with fire was like, just lots of fire.
But of course,
set everything on fire.
But that was the great thing, was that they both actually complemented each other very well, right? I mean, they both learned how to improvise. A lot of times in the Clone Wars series, it's their way of improvising is shown to be more effective than some of their other more rigid compatriots. Anyways, that's all that.
And they did learn from each other. They learned a lot from each other. They moved each other along really, really key and necessary character developments. And if you're of the school of thought, which it seems, at least in the later parts of the series, that Yoda is, that the Jedi Order was flawed and could stand to evolve into something new, it wasn't the intended effect, but it might ultimately have been a good thing, because it did lead them to their ultimate arcs so far. Ahsoka's, which we're still figuring out. We're still learning more about it.
So, quick question: when does she, as far as the movies go, where most people would know their Star Wars, how does she fit in terms of timing and when she comes in and comes out? For those who haven't seen, Clone Wars or Rebels or anything like that.
So, in terms of timing, when Anakin first turns to the dark side, that's at a point when she is in hiding.
Mm-hmm. She's about 17 about that point, I think, right?
Yeah.
This is like between episodes 2 and 3.
Between episodes 2 and 3, yeah. And she doesn't know who Darth Vader is when he first, becomes a figurehead for the Sith. So at that point, she's still in her late teens, early 20s to give that kind of an anchor reference point.
I think she's 14 at the beginning of the Clone Wars, and that's about the time she's assigned to Anakin. She spends a lot of time through the war, becomes a commander alongside Obi-Wan and Anakin. And do you want to actually get into her resume, Lexi?
Yeah, absolutely. So she's actually one of the youngest commanders in the Grand Army of the Republic, and even went so far as ended up dying during a mission on the planet Mortis, which is that's like a deep lore dive. Mortis is like a very force attuned planet. And she ended up resurrected by a deity on Mortis known as the Daughter, which she represented the light side of the Force. She ended up framed for multiple homicides and the bombing of the Jedi Temple hangar, and then became disillusioned with the Jedi Order for accusing her. Even when she ended up clearing her name and the Jedi Council let her come back, she ended up refusing her readmission to the Jedi Order once her name was cleared. She kind of has a history, even when she was with the Jedi Order, of helping underdogs. She was freeing trafficked children, freeing enslaved Togruta while she was still with the Jedi Order, other people from her race. Immediately after, she supported an uprising against the Empire on Rada, and joined Senator Bail Organa and helped him expand the Rebel Network. So she was with the Rebel Network before Leia even became a major player in it.
Actually,
to also kind of give another reference point in time.
Quickly interjecting, she was also the Jedi who helped train, what's his name? Forrest Whitaker's character.
Oh, yes. I'm blanking on
Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera. There we go. Yeah, and didn't approve of his methods, but yeah, key. Thank you for reminding me of that.
We do have an Ahsoka question here on the chat. Okay, so Al wants to know, can you explain for people like that have only watched the movies why Ahsoka has such a strong fan base? I've been hearing the buzz about this episode for weeks.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So Ahsoka's got such a strong fan base. I think partially because she really is one of the first female Jedis that gets a real plot arc and a real character arc, even if that's not in the feature films. You finally have someone who she, isn't just introduced as like a member of the Jedi Council who happens to be a woman, that kind of thing. And up until then, you have a lot of strong female characters, but none of them who are Jedi. So that's, I know, one of the reasons why she gained a huge amount of popularity.
And that wasn't the case at first, too. When she was first introduced, like, people hated her. Like, people were like, oh, she's the new Jar Jar. She's a kiddie character. And she really earned her stripes and earned her popularity. One of the key things, the core ideas of this character is that, again, she's a rebel very much like Anakin. But she manages to maintain her sense of compassion and her kind of moral center to the point that she questions the Jedi Order and basically calls out the Jedi Order. Like, this whole storyline at the end of season 6 of the Clone Wars is pivotal because she basically says, y'all didn't back me up. Y'all were so quick to play politics and throw me under the bus. And now when it's proven that I was not the assassin, you're just like, oh, everything's normal. No, like you're all like playing politics more than doing what you were sent here to do. We're not monks. We're now all soldiers, and we're fighting this war for political reasons and not doing what's right. So
not only was she basically the first female Jedi that women could relate to in that way. She also had, as Andy was just saying, this huge role as a character, being one of the first major characters, one of the first Jedi to call out the actual the process by which the Jedi Order worked, what the Jedi Order had turned into. So she's a really nice character foil for Anakin turned Vader. She's an excellent foil for Anakin turned Vader. kind of shows how you could take all that passion and instead of letting it fester and turn to hate, that you could you do something constructive with it and not follow the Jedi Order. Still,
now tell us about her lightsabers, though. Those are like really like we haven't seen sabers like this on screen before.
Absolutely. So her lightsabers actually kind of ties into one of the reasons why she is increasingly so important. She acquired those sabers not by your usual means. She didn't get them when she was an apprentice. She actually got them. Let's see. Where did I put that section? I have so many notes on her, you guys. I have so many notes on her. Okay, so when she had to flee to Coruscant to clear her name, she ended up faking her own death and leaving her original lightsabers behind. So her original lightsabers were a pair of two green. One was green, one was a lighter green, and that one was a Shoto saber, which was a shorter one, which is also the same style of saber that Yoda uses, usually for short, smaller Jedi, which Ahsoka also one of those. The reason that it's going with her importance in the series and in this whole universe is that she got those lightsabers. She got the kyber crystals by defeating one of the Imperial Inquisitors. Was it what was his name? Does anybody remember? I'm blanking out on what it was.
I think it was Sixth
brother. Sixth brother.
I
couldn't remember which brother it was. Yeah, so it was Sixth brother. So she defeated Sixth brother, who had the two lightsabers and double-bladed lightsaber, and purified the kyber crystals. So I wish there were more on the actual purification of the kyber crystals, but
they go over it a little bit. So there's stuff about okay, so like there's stuff in the comics about how lightsaber crystals turn red, and this is a relatively new thing in the last couple of years, where a Sith would defeat a Jedi, take their crystal, whether it was green or blue or purple, whatever, and they would make it bleed, and that's where the color red would come from. So this idea of Ahsoka, and this was in the Ahsoka novel actually, of defeating Sixth brother, taking his double-bladed lightsaber, and then going through a ritual to purify it of its darkness, and basically turning it white, right? And of course, it's also the idea that she is no longer a Jedi. Like, she's very adamantly not of the Jedi way, of the Jedi order. She has disavowed that path in favor of her own, so she is not affiliated with either Jedi or Sith. And
I think that is represented really, really beautifully in that narrative choice that they had in the comic books. See, I was wondering where it was brought up. I was like, is it in the book? Is it in the novel? Or is it in the comic books? I wasn't sure because I hadn't seen it. I'd only read a little bit about it. And I knew that I thought it was a really, really incredibly strong choice that they made for her to purify these crystals. And when she purifies them, because some of the idea being that the kyber crystals take on their color from, the characteristics of the Jedi. That being, kind of a where's that idea introduced? Somebody probably knows better than I do.
I think it was introduced in the Ahsoka novel. Actually, you mean the purification?
Beyond the purification, where there's the I don't know if it's canon or if it's just theory that like a Jedi's personality or inclinations can have an effect on the color of the kyber crystal. And I'm not sure how canon that is, but I do
There's
love
green versus blue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I do love that. I do love that they kind of chose to go with white light, which is all colors. If you think of it from like a science light and color theory standpoint, white is the combination of all light colors. And so it kind of really firmly, as you said, is a visual and narrative indicator that even though she rejects the dark side of the Force, she doesn't associate with the light in the pre-prescribed way that the Jedi taught her, that she has her own path. And instead of picking one color almost. It's kind of all of them. I think that's kind of cool. Whether or not that particular thing was intentional, I think it's kind of cool that it ends up being that way, because white light is this full spectrum.
Well,
Yeah.
so
I think it's really interesting, at least to me, the whole choosing her own path, not just in the story, but if you look at the regular bits of Star Wars lore, people have always been wondering, well, hey, is it just Sith and is it just Jedi? We see a situation where, you have Anakin and Ahsoka thrown in kind of with him. And, Andy brought this up a little while ago, but I've had corporate situations where people say, we don't like that guy. He's weird. Let's throw this other weird person in together. And if they fuck up, then we can get rid of all of them at the same time. So that's kind of how I viewed it, because I'm watching this and I'm like, oh man, they're just lumping all the problematic Force users together. They're about to get laid off.
I have a question. What about the dual sabers? Because the only other person we really see with dual sabers is Ventress, right?
And yeah, Ventress, and Maul has double-sided as well, doesn't he?
Well, so Maul has double-bladed.
That was the name.
But it's all
but,
double-bladed.
But Ventress,
But he doesn't detach them. Mm-hmm.
but Ventress and Ahsoka specifically dual wield, which is like the specific thing, right?
Yeah, that is a very specific thing. So that is considered, again, and that might be something for the comic books or the novels, but it's something that I read about called the Jarkai method. It is more a double wielding thing, which is part of my fan theory on the blades. I noticed that most of that so specifically Asajj Ventress and Ahsoka Tano, dual wield blades. They do this very specific, the Jarkai style. And so I'm wondering if there is some kind of significance to the fact that these two characters who were initially trained by respectively the Sith and the Jedi, and ended up having bad experiences with the hierarchy and the politics that went into the order that they had chosen to educate them. And they ended up turning their back on the order. And a point I didn't include in my breakdown here, but is very relevant, especially to this little fan theory, is that there is a situation during the animated series during which Asajj and Ahsoka actually team up.
There's a few actually. And in fact, it's kind of a thing where she adopts. So when we first meet Ahsoka, she is distinct in that she carries a single green lightsaber, which she carries inverted. That's basically the blade,
the reverse
grip. Reverse grip. And then after her first duel against Asajj, she actually goes and makes the second Shoto blade and begins dual wielding kind of after her experiences against Asajj Ventress. So yes, there is definitely a connection between them.
I have a
absolute connection.
I have a question inspired by one of Al's questions here, and that is that he specifically noticed that she went left-handed after losing her one saber. Was she left-handed in Clone Wars? Do you remember? I
don't remember, but now I'm going to go back and rewatch that because I am left-handed, and that would just make my year. If she was a lefty, that would just make my year. So I thank you for that question, because that'll give me something to go back and look for. Wait, maybe someone will have that on the internet. Okay.
And quick note, Asajj Ventress, that's Dooku's apprentice that he was trying to build up on the sly when he was thinking about getting rid of the Palpatine. So,
and then Palpatine found out and then forced him to try to kill her. And so she was cast out by her master.
And then she went rogue. And then she went rogue. Ended up becoming a bounty hunter, and there's a couple of points that sort of towards the end of the character arc where you see her making some decisions that actually seem to have some kind of a solid moral center. You know, she doesn't go out of her way to be good, but she is definitely not a Sith anymore. I don't think she ever loses the red blades, though. I don't think she ever loses the red blades. Okay. I don't think in canon I don't think she was supposed to be technically left-handed, but if Rosario Dawson is left-handed, then that would also make my year. I don't lose here.
So I don't know if any of you have any thoughts on Star Wars getting into the whole gray Jedi thing, or if this is their way of introducing it, not specifically calling it out, but just kind of throwing in characters that don't necessarily fit into the Sith Jedi type of, demarcations. Any thoughts?
There's a lot of thoughts about that in the chat.
Throw us one.
I don't know if you want me to say them.
Go for it.
It looks like some people.
Oh.
Some people are asking about it, and Jason's saying that there are no gray Jedi.
So
did you hear me? I said,
if I recall, what has been said so far is that yes, like Jedi is a way, Sith is a way. In terms of there being such a thing as a gray Jedi, that's kind of would be a misnomer. There could be a path that is, shall we say, a gray path, but it hasn't been named. And that's something that I'm kind of really interested in. I'm hoping that happens as we kind of start more storytelling, as we start seeing more of these different approaches to the Force, right? Like we saw Donnie Yen's character in Rogue One, right? And there's that methodology and that worship of the Force, right? Or like we've seen for fans of Rebels, like we've seen the Bendu,
Yes.
who is a really fascinating character who does kind of align with this kind of center path that is neither Jedi, Sith, Ashla, or Bogan. So
Exactly.
And they have that reflected a little too in the Mortis planet story arc as well, with you have the father, son, and daughter, and the daughter being the embodiment of the light, the son being the embodiment of the dark, and the father being the balancing force in between on that planet.
those are the light sides of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
right. So really quick thing about the Mortis arc. So the Mortis arc was, I think, like a 3-episode storyline in Clone Wars. And the idea is that Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan end up on this planet that is controlled by these Force gods. And basically it just kind of digs deeper into the mythology behind the Force, where the Force comes from, how the Force works, the nature of the Force. So these characters of the daughter, the son, and the father are representatives of almost kind of metaphorical representatives of like the nature of the Force, or the various natures of the Force. And we've seen them kind of pop up. And that's also a really important storyline for Ahsoka specifically, because as Lexi mentioned before, she does die and is resurrected by the daughter character, and is, so that's kind of always been an interesting point of what her purpose in the whole like prophecy of it all, because she somewhat exists outside kind of normal grounded Force usage.
Yeah, Ahsoka definitely exists outside of a lot of normal grounded anything. I mean, the last time that, not the last time, but after she initially figures out who Darth Vader is and is dueling him on Malachor, the entire Sith temple collapses on top of them, and the only reason she survives is because future Ezra Bridger pulls her out with a portal. She breaks a lot of rules, and I think that also goes back to our chat question of why she is such a fan favorite and why she is so popular. Because she breaks all the rules in the same way Anakin does, but she doesn't go dark.
Yeah. So that's actually another thing. So the World Between Worlds was an idea introduced in Rebels, where Ezra Bridger, one of the kind of leading characters in that series, discovers a temple to the Mortis gods, and through it enters kind of a space and time realm called the World Between Worlds that allows him access to various points within the Star Wars timeline. Just kind of defying time and space. Not a lot is known about it, but as far as we know, both he and Ahsoka are the only two characters to have gone through this realm.
Do you know what name she went by after she went into hiding?
Ashla.
Do you know
Light
what
side
it
of the
means?
Force.
Yeah.
Light side of the Force.
Awesome.
Jason wanted to put that out in the chat.
Oh, and in if there's other parts of it where you guys have heard Fulcrum mentioned as a intelligence agent for the Resistance, that's Ahsoka as well.
Yeah, in fact, I think her face markings actually become kind of an early symbol of the rebellion and Fulcrum as well.
Yeah.
So what did she do during the rebellion?
During the rebellion, that was one of the things that I was going to say. That was one of the things where she had so many missions that I kind of had to abridge it. Because she did a lot. She was with the rebellion starting from when Bail Organa formed it, so before Leia became kind of a heavyweight player before the original trilogies. Or the original trilogy, I guess she would have been more of a player during... no, she wouldn't have been.
Yeah, they basically introduced that idea of her being kind of the hands of Bail Organa in the formation of the rebellion. So the idea being that she had experience training, obviously Saw Gerrera and other small uprisings. She also actually trained young Mandalorians prior to there's like an episode arc where she's training Mandalorians, but Bail somehow finds out that she's still alive and still out there and recruits her to basically be a central point of contact to activate various rebel cells. So before there is a rebel alliance, there are various small cells on various planets, including, the cell that we see in Rogue One, including the cell that we see in Star Wars Rebels on Lothal. And she is kind of the central point of contact that basically starts moving them towards unifying into a rebel alliance.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of Ahsoka in Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
And the Hunter Stinky, whatever you want to call that movie. But so now, yeah, there's so much. She's definitely a character that grew on me, and I don't want to say I wasn't a fan of hers. I wasn't a fan of the first movie, so it was just so bad to me that I kind of associated her with that. But then very quickly after, she was reintroduced, I guess, and she became a favorite of mine. And I also like Shaak Ti, who's the same type of character with the head tails and fork tube. And so I like her. So that kind of led me into liking, really getting into Ahsoka. Yeah. So definitely check her out if you are watching Rebels or Clone Wars. You kind of have to if you check those out. But if you want to know more, that's where you go.
And we'll go ahead and try and build an essential watch list that we'll release over social media. Not everything, because that's basically all of Clone Wars and, over half of the Rebels shows. So we'll try and pick out like the most important episodes and stories that you can, cherry pick on your Disney Plus viewing.
Yeah, and if you missed our show last week or didn't hear this part, we also have a watch list for all of your necessary Mandalorian history. We've created that. It's on our Facebook page. You can search for that, or just ping any of us. Bo-Katan specifically?
Yeah.
Or Mandalorian lore?
There's one for each.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll be. Those are also available online. So, Now we still got to get into the Mandalorian season 2, episode 5. But as I said, this show is special to me. Not just this podcast, but the Mandalorian, Star Wars. It's all special to me. So being in the holiday spirit, I was walking through Target and was feeling the holiday vibes. You know, everybody's doing their Black Friday month shopping that they're doing now. And I ran across something very, very cool that I hadn't seen talked about anywhere else. I'm just going to do this really quickly. Just bear with me. I found something that took me back to my Saturday morning cartoon era, which is what The Mandalorian is doing. And it is Star Wars cereal.
What?
Yes, it's The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, full of sugar and Frosty Puff. Nutrition, fruity flavored sweetened cereal with marshmallows and other flavors.
Please tell me there's little marshmallow frogs or
frog eggs. Marshmallow frog eggs.
Exactly. I've never tried this at all. So this is my first opening here.
Wait, do the nuggets look like chicken nuggies?
Tip-yip.
They're little nondescript green, shiny, neon Baby Yodas, I suppose.
Without the ears?
Yep. And then your crunchy little kicks type of deals. Yep, that's good.
Those are the chicken nuggies.
Grogu nuggies. Every Saturday morning, I would always sit down and watch cartoons or whatever with my brothers and stuff, and we'd get a big bowl like this. Pretty much do the whole thing. So it's real if you lost your spoon in there somewhere. But this is how we would do it.
Wait, isn't there that from a movie too, like a giant bowl of cereal? What movie is that in?
A movie of life.
Okay, wait. Are they as good as the C-3PO cereal? Have you had those?
C-3POs?
C-3POs?
Stop.
I actually thought the C-3POs were a little too OD, like they had a little too much rain and, speaking 6 billion languages type of multi-grain goodness. This is far more, frog, bog, type of nutrition. So that's my review.
That's truly an unboxing.
Literal.
They should rename them Grogu's.
Yeah, definitely. Woo. I feel a little hopped up on sugar already.
I was gonna say you feeling sugar. You hyped.
So moving on. Does anybody in the chat have questions about my cereal? No.
Any more questions about your cereal?
Moving on then.
Oh, somebody said it's forgetting Sarah Marshall.
We are up to episode 5 of the.
The big bowl of cereal.
Wait,
I guess.
forgetting Sarah Marshall. I missed the. Oh. Sorry. Right. Nice. I'll have to go back and look at that and make sure my bowl is up to snuff there.
That wasn't the movie I had in mind. So apparently it just is the bowl of cereal of life.
Yeah. And what's funny is I wasn't the only one who would do that. It was like me, my brother, and my oldest brother. We'd all have big bowls, and my mother would just look at us and shake her head, but let us do our thing. Once a week. All right. So we are up to episode 5 of The Mandalorian, the show that's rocking everybody's world, keeping people subscribed to Disney Plus, and getting everybody all excited about what will happen next week in this adventure. So, Andy and Tracy are going to take this away. You got a synopsis and an overview. Let's go.
All right. So this is chapter 13, The Jedi. So the Mandalorian and the child continue to search for the Jedi. Following the lead they received from heiress Bo-Katan, they arrive at the city of Caladan on the planet Corvus, where the population lives in fear of the city's magistrate, Morgan Elsbeth. Her guards and a mercenary named Lang are protecting her from an attacker. But their paths will collide with the mysterious warrior Bo-Katan sent them there to find. the mysterious Ahsoka Tano. So this was a great episode. I if you can't tell, I am an Ahsoka fan. I have loved this character. I have watched this character grow, and there is so much wonderful, beautiful tragedy to her arc that has been great to watch develop. So I went into this episode knowing that I am biased, because this is just a realization of things. Not just a realization of seeing Ahsoka Tano come to life, but also a realization of getting to watch Dave Filoni play in live action for the first time. Well, not the first time, but really to kind of really treat one of his signature characters in real life. So this episode heavily pulls from Akira Kurosawa and classic westerns. If you are a fan of any of his art, if you've seen his Instagram, there are shots that look like straight out of his sketchbook. In fact, there's even scenes that look like it's just kind of he almost staged the episode like a series of paintings that are beautifully composed with some great hero pose moments. You also feel a lot of use of silence and stillness as you get into these kind of moments where you're really feeling the quiet and the pensiveness and kind of the tragedy of the weight of everything that has come before this moment. And actually a lot of minimal dialogue. And so for me, I kept wondering, as much as I was loving everything, I really wanted to know if people who are not familiar with Ahsoka and people who are not familiar with this character are feeling all the feels that I was feeling. And so I don't know if I can give this a fair review ranking because I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and it hit me in emotional places. There's one particular scene that Ahsoka has that hit me in a particular way, and we can get into that later. But yeah, so that's my thing. I was wondering, if it delivers on fan service, and if it was, well, it was hitting me. But is it too deep in the fan service? I can't tell because I'm biased.
I hear that though. I hear that.
Well, and somebody in the comments made a mention, and sorry, it was several comments back, so I'm not sure who said it, but they said that they didn't really know much about Ahsoka Tano, but they felt that the way that Rosario Dawson portrayed her, they could feel all that backstory in her acting. So,
and I'm biased about her too. I'm biased about her too.
And she such a different role for her too, right? Honestly, casting her in this role is kind of casting her against type. She is so gregarious and such a passionate performer, and to play someone who is grizzled and wizened and very selective about what she says is so interesting to see her play.
I made perfect sense to me, that casting.
I mean, it did to me too. It's not like I didn't think she was capable of it. It's more like it's just not a role that we see her in, the kind of role that I feel like we see her in a lot.
So
no, I think it was. Go ahead. I think it was definitely new to people who know her different roles. It was new to me seeing her in this role, but I think it worked out well. Coming from, I know her most intimately, I guess, from the Kevin Smith movies. That's where I kind of picked up on Rosario Dawson. And then all of a sudden having Ahsoka, her whole thing, seeing them come together, it really worked out nicely. I think she added a lot of her own to it. Yeah. And, to your point, Andy, you asked if people understood and they knew, they knew not how to feel, but if they could really connect with this episode without having those, without having that history. And amazingly, from the people I've talked to, because, I've got a group of friends who don't know about Star Wars, but they're watching The Mandalorian. Like, they haven't even seen all the movies. So that was kind of cool to me that this still played off very well and still worked for them. It was just this strange character that they've kind of been building up to a little bit. So when the strange character finally showed up, she gave enough of as you said, the presence, the hints and everything, that it just made it work. So instead of us seeing a fully created character show up, to them it was like this cool, mysterious character that they want to know more about. So I think it worked. And I saw Lexi threw up a hand at one point in there.
Yeah. Oh, that was like a yes. What point was it at? What point was it at?
Wait, should we just go ahead and give the spoiler warning now?
Yeah, let's do that.
You've been warned.
We're all bursting.
About the spoiler warning. You've been warned about the spoiler. Sorry, I lost my thought. You have officially been warned. If you haven't seen it yet and you don't want it spoiled for you, now's the time to log off. But
we're getting into it.
If we're talking about Rosario Dawson's performance in particular, when I think even people who don't know about the Ahsoka Tano character knew who she was referring to when she said "the best of us."
Yeah.
And when
that was insane. Oh.
Yeah. That was definitely right in the feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could you could just feel like, my brother became the, evil incarnate.
I thought it was such a good choice. Like you said, that you said it was a little against type for her, as you said. And what I thought made it such a, not that I know that you didn't think it was a bad choice. What I'm saying, what to me made it intuitive was I went, oh yeah, she has the young Ahsoka energy, and she is a talented enough actress to be able to layer on the experience and the trauma. Because, let's be real, that's what it is. Girl's been through a lot of trauma.
And so much of it really was without words, just her and Yoda using the Force to kind of mind meld with each other. Not to reference my other favorite sci-fi franchise, but that sort of telepathic communication, where we of course learn that his name is Grogu.
I'm still not sure how I feel about that. Man,
I'm getting used to, but I'm down. I'm down for the ride.
I don't think I hate it, but it's just like a shock to the system. Oh
my gosh! But every time he went, huh? Oh, so cute. Ian's asking if Grogu is Arabesh for MacGuffin. That's being a smartass.
Nice. So I also want to really just talk about going into this, there's a lot of anticipation, right? And there are all these things where I was kind of like, okay, Dave Filoni, how are you going to tease this out? And he didn't tease it out. He just bam hits you over the head with it, right? Like there was a whole exposition drop there when we reveal the name, we reveal Grogu's backstory, which I was like, wow, you just put it out there, which honestly, it didn't become like exposition-y, right? It was just kind of like, here's a bunch of exposition, and this to me is going, there's a lot other important stuff, so we're just gonna get this out of the way, and that was exciting to me, actually. The beginning of this episode absolutely killed me, because he totally stole, if any of you guys ever played the Force Unleashed video game. So the Force Unleashed was a video game a number of years back, and it kind of blew up when they first revealed its trailer. And they did this whole bit where the main character is kind of a Sith assassin, and they basically showed a bunch of stormtroopers in a dark room, and basically he kind of came up ninja style behind them, and you never saw him until the lightsabers ignited. And it was such an impactful thing, and they totally used it for Ahsoka for this, which was absolutely perfect, because it made
Obi-Wan and Anakin did that as well in Phantom. Was it Phantom Menace? They came through the poison fog. What was it?
Well, coming through the poison fog, but not to the point of being kind of ninja stealth kill, right? Where
I think it was Clone Wars, actually. I think they were coming in through. They were coming through. Yeah. But you're right. That was like a poison mist. It wasn't like a force fog.
Yeah.
Speaking of the mist, I thought it was a really brilliant choice to have it on Corvus and have it looking as it did, because not only did it really echo that kind of Kurosawa aesthetic, but it also, the fog and the trees and the going to find a Jedi sage echoed the going to Dagobah as well,
Right.
like echoed the swamps and finding the sage in the swamps and connecting with the neophyte Force user.
I'm also like, you don't have to have giant, long-legged chameleons eating trees in the background, but you're Filoni, and it's right out of your sketchbook, so you do.
Yes. And now I want to know what they're called, and I
Exactly.
want a red one.
I love how this like desolated, and we live in Southern California, so fires are nothing new to us. So this was not. I mean, it was like, oh, we're home, but I love how the area that Ahsoka is in, like, there's so much force surrounding her and flowing around her that there's that. The floor of the forest is almost like rainforest.
Yeah.
Right.
All
Like
moss.
she's bringing the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it's the first time the color palette changes to green, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of hazy, smoggy, imperial strip forested, brown. And then
in talking about Dave Filoni, like putting it all out there right in the beginning, I kind of expected Ahsoka to show up at the end, kind of like the finale of Rebels, you know, where it's like she would just kind of show up and it would be like, okay, we're going to go into her next episode.
Yeah.
So for her to be like the very first person we see on screen, I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
They better Cara Dune her and bring her back and not just have that be a one-off. Like, I really hope that they didn't feature her so heavily because it's a one-off. I mean, I don't know. But that's just, again, because I'm biased and I love her and I want to see more of her.
Oh, wait. Okay. Benja wants to say something, but then I have to say something after Benja.
I'm going to take this off in a slightly different direction. So what I'm hearing here is actually, and I want to phrase this properly, it's not my problem with the show, but it's what I brought up. It's what I brought up before with season 2. They're doing a lot more of just this. I mean, it's what we've been talking about: the atmosphere, the actors, the Easter eggs, the references, and not so much about the story that they're telling. I had actually had pretty high hopes for what they might do with the Jedi versus Mandalorian kind of thing, and I don't know. I felt like that tension that they were building up to lasted all of about 4 seconds. It's like they're about to fight or they're about to have a disagreement, and suddenly, oh, Bo-Katan sent me. Oh, well, let's have this little adventure. Let's do some exposition with Grogu, and all this other stuff happened. And I'm kind of wondering, I don't know. I wonder about that as a storytelling device where you're not really telling a story, you're just kind of showing things. And I don't know.
Well,
go ahead, Andy.
I mean, it's not like they were ever set up to be antagonists, right? Like, we know who our villains are, like, from the opening moments. I mean, you have Michael Biehn there, who's sitting there, in all of his, okay, so Michael Biehn, of course, is...
Okay, let's put it this way. There is no tension in this show.
I don't think... Tension.
Oh.
I don't think there... I think it's very interesting because the 2 episodes that we've kind of commented on for a lack of dramatic tension, I think it's actually just from somebody who went through directing school. Notable thing to point out that those 2 episodes happen to be spearheaded by less experienced live action directors. You had Carl Weathers, who I think it was saying was making his directorial debut. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge shift of the brain to go from acting where you're focused on your character and its relation to the rest of the plot to taking a kind of bird's eye view and seeing how everything moves together. And then Dave Filoni coming from more of an animation background and having less experience directing live action. Actually, I don't know how much experience he has, whether that was his first debut during doing live action or whether that was just one of his first few live actions that he's done. I don't remember.
Season 1 was his first.
There we go. Okay.
Debut.
So only having directed 2 live actions is going to really take an effect on the way that you feed information into your narrative. And I think, it also, when you're that new to the live action, to working with actors, to that kind of directing game, it really changes how your ability to create tension, because you're so focused on the other just basics that those nuances tend to kind of escape, or have a tendency to escape. I know they did with my first 5 to 8 to 10 productions I ever directed, where I wasn't creating tension was something that I was like, it's in the plot, shouldn't it just happen?
I mean, to me, the key thing, I wouldn't use tension. I would use stakes. And to me, what are the stakes of the story? The stakes are, will Ahsoka train the child? Right. That's what's at stake here. That's why Mandalorian teams up with her to take down the magistrate. Right.
Yes.
Because he's figuring he can convince her, and it's also, will Mando be able to let go of the child, which he's not. He ends up not, right?
He ends up not having to.
Which is why we have these episodes, because they're trying to draw out their relationship before the decision has to be made.
And that's the other thing too, right? Like, as much as these are episodic tales within a tale, there is still, I still see where what we're seeing is there is a larger arc happening, right? So right now we are towards the tail end of the middle act, the second act of, an 8-episode long screenplay.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm saying is, I can't tell if the lack of dramatic tension comes from the inexperience of the directors, or if it comes from the plot itself. I'm right now currently leaning towards the inexperienced director theory, just because of everything that is being pointed out with the narrative, will they, won't they, of will Din Djarin give up Grogu, and when and how, because for him it's kind of becoming clear, at least, or I think to me, it seems that to Din Djarin, his question is really, now that he's admittedly attached to Grogu, now his question is, how long am I going to be enough for him?
Yeah. Well,
how long am I going to be enough for him?
This episode established that it's going to be Grogu's choice.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Din Djarin's choice. It's not going to be the Jedi's choice. It's going to be Grogu's choice.
I really hope. Keep going.
Okay. Well, this is another thing too, right? Like to me, like, the moment we know what the real stakes are come in the first scene that we see with Mando and the child. Is he says, "All right, go strap yourself in, go get in the seat," and he's like, "What'd I say? Get back in the seat." And that's that moment is about, he has become a better parent now, right? And he and the child are bonded in a way where the child is starting to respect his authority. We kind of revisit this feeling again when he shows up. He goes to the Razor Crest to deliver him to Ahsoka, and the child is sleeping, and he starts to try and wake him up, and then he just lets him sleep. And you can kind of see that the tension of will he let go of the child, right? You
also see a deepening of him literally understanding what makes the little guy tick, because Ahsoka offers him a rock to try and get to do this exercise, and he tries it at first and then thinks, no, you know what, let's give him the toy that he wants. And it's interesting because actually, thinking about it again, that might have also influenced Ahsoka's decision to say, this child is very emotionally compromised, because she might have noticed, right? She notices he won't take the rock. He takes the thing he has the emotional connection to, and she sees that it takes the emotional reaction, and seeing that he's incapable of utilizing the Force unless he's emotionally triggered. She, I think, is noticing that this is, and it's interesting because she doesn't tell him that he should never be trained, because ultimately she does tell him where to go to tap into the Force and to possibly find a mentor. But I think it's very interesting because younger Ahsoka would have jumped in and wanted to help save and mentor the baby, because I think because she is such a protective, I can't let, she has to be very hands-on. So I think that it's very interesting because you see kind of reflected in the line where she references Anakin Vader, what happens to the best of us. I've seen what happens to the best of us. I feel like that's her grown up admitting I'm too close to this kind of situation to be the right mentor for him. I'm not the right mentor, and I will do more harm than good, was my take off of it, which I thought was in keeping with her character arc and what needed to be done.
You know, the other thing, too, with this show, right? I mean, you could almost say that part of the kind of mission statement of this show has been to keep things outside of galactic consequence, right? This has been a very personal story. It's not the Skywalkers. It's not the fate of the galaxy at stake. It's the men, right? Yeah,
or it's how these
like this is something that I've really enjoyed because I don't want it to be about the Skywalkers, right? Like, I mean, maybe Luke will be the one who hears him, but it's like I really kind of have been enjoying that this is off in the wilds and some other, you know, smaller stakes personal thing happening adjacent to or alongside all the gigantic conflict over on the other side of the galaxy.
And I think a lot of people
that's just me though
appreciated that it's not a Jedi based show, kind of like they appreciated that neither was Rogue One or even Solo. There weren't really any Jedi in them at all. But and I definitely had that thought go through my head while I was watching the episode. But then it's hard to not appreciate the fights between the Jedi and, you know, like it just anytime that there's lightsabers involved in a fight, it's so fun to watch. It's there's nothing like it. There really isn't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was the lightsaber sound. It was like, you know, Cartoon Network's Star Wars sound. Anytime something Star Wars would happen, they would zero right before it started up. You know, and it's definitely iconic.
They've got us trained like little Pavlovian dogs for it. It's great.
Totally. But I don't know, maybe, you know, you see where I'm getting at, but I've been in the comments and talking to people. A lot of what's coming back to people that don't necessarily follow all of Star Wars like we do is that fact that so much of it is so heavy on the, and I'm not saying that the tension and the stakes aren't there. They're just intentionally not focused on as heavy as the references, the you know, the styling, the directors even, you know, I think the last big thing people talked about was, you know, should Baby Yoda be eating eggs or not? What kind of creature is this? And you start to wonder about his character as a Grogu, as a Yoda being, you know.
He was eyeballing those fish too. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Those carp.
My sci-fi bio thought is that his species needs so much protein because their brains are so large that he just needs to eat all of the protein.
I mean, he's due for a growth spurt, clearly.
Right?
Okay, we've hardly talked about like the like parts of the episode. Like we've got, you know, some of the cast. We talked a little bit about how Michael Biehn plays Lang, right? And of course, we know him from Alien. We know him as Kyle Reese from Terminator. We know him as like Johnny Ringo from Tombstone, which his death scene kind of reminded me of a little bit with
such a good gunslinger shootout.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And who's the other big
I also just want to call out.
Do we know the Corvus from anywhere? This planet?
The planet?
Or the city? You know, the city of the planet?
But that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist.
I don't know. Well, and Morgan Elsbeth is a new character as far as I know. But the actress who plays her is a really amazing woman in that her father was a very prolific martial arts coordinator and her godfather was Bruce Lee. And she was Buffy's stunt double on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So Diana Lee.
That I didn't know.
So Diana Lee Inosanto, who she is, and you know, this is the thing too, that this episode released on what would have been Bruce Lee's 80th birthday.
Oh, that's
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's fun. I love that.
So that's a little double win there. Great to see Diana out there doing her thing. She's a great martial artist and great fight choreographer and director and filmmaker in her own right. And a really interesting character with this Beskar spear, which was an interesting way to give Ahsoka a duel.
Yeah.
One thing that I kind of noticed and wasn't really sure if there's anything to be made of this, but she has that little tattoo that kind of peeked out from under her hairline, which I was curious about. Of like, is there a full tattoo like under the hair?
Her hair was kind of that Ray style too. It's a very popular hairstyle.
She had a braid, but it's kind of
she had the four buns.
Mind if I
and then a
jump in real quick?
Sure.
The voice of Rod.
Voice of Rod.
The voice of Rod.
Just wanted to jump in real quick. I wanted to share a short story, a short anecdote. When I was watching the episode, the whole time I had this feeling like I knew the actress. Like I was like, this has to be some kind of like Filipino actress that I don't know. I just recognize her as Filipina. And then at the credits, when I saw it was Diana Inosanto, basically Diana Inosanto's daughter, I freaked out. Like I absolutely freaked out. I was like, oh my god, that makes totally sense. And then, so I know Andy explained a little bit. So basically, she is the goddaughter of Bruce Lee. Diana Inosanto is the best friend of Bruce Lee, and he's a Filipino. And he taught
co-founded Jeet Kune Do together.
Yeah, and he basically taught like Bruce Lee nunchucks.
Sick.
Well, and Eskrima.
And Eskrima, all that other stuff. So, and Dan Inosanto basically, he is trained pretty much every fight coordinator, and that's the reason why you see Filipino martial arts in like movies like Born Identity, et cetera, Eskrima. And then Ahsoka, the fact that she dual wields, that's definitely Eskrima as well. Like it's just a style. And so, I just thought it was like, and then the fact that it was the birthday, Bruce Lee's birthday. I mean, it was just like it had so much wrapped into just that one casting choice. It just like was just amazing. So, yeah.
Diana also has a bit of history with Usos players where I work too. She actually, I think she choreographed fights for a couple of shows before I got here. But most notably, there was a play called Be Like Water where there was a Bruce Lee character played by actor Cesar Cipriano, who I think she did all the choreography to be authentic to Bruce, since, she grew up with him.
That's one of the things I love about this show is that everything is so layered. Like every Easter egg is layered, every casting choice is layered. There's I feel like no detail is it hasn't been thought of and accounted for when it comes
everything's
to
intentional. Everything's intentional.
So speaking of detail,
and it doesn't feel like, I guess one of the other things too I want to ask you guys, like going back to casting, it doesn't feel like stunt casting either, right?
Yeah.
Like it just feels like, oh yeah, okay, that's Timothy Oliphant, but like he feels like he's part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
what do you mean by stunt casting?
Like stunt casting, like Game of Thrones,
fan service.
Yeah, they had what's his name? All of a sudden, he's one of the Lannister, the singer.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
I don't even like Ed Sheeran that much. I still knew who it was.
Yeah.
Case in point.
That's what I'm saying. That's like stunt casting, where it's like, okay, it's just a cameo, but it's like it just brings you out of it, right? These things are like, that's Michael Biehn. Oh, that's it just doesn't feel
even like Rosario Dawson, who, like we were saying, a little different.
Was a fan casting, honestly. Right? That started on Twitter.
Like Ming Na Wen, right? Like it doesn't. They're not doing it in such a way that it's like, this is a stunt. It's just like it just feels organic. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, so I also just want to point out too, right? Like this episode, we already talked about kind of aesthetically Filoni's pulling a lot from Akira Kurosawa, but also you have like design-wise this walled city that looks like southern China, right? Down to having like the walled city with the turrets up above, and like the village in the middle that with the one street town that leads up to a circular palace within another wall, right? Like that is straight out of southern China.
Or like kind of a samurai vibe as well, like from the old Japanese movies.
Yeah,
that kind of borrowed from Western, and Western borrowed from them, and all of that.
Also, just pointing out, our other major character, the former governor of Corvus, is played by Wing Chao, who is a Disney legend and Disney Imagineer, who was a huge part of creating the whole Disney Cruise Lines, and also did a lot of negotiation for some of the foreign parks in Hong Kong and France. So he's, clearly a bit of a Star Wars nerd as well, and
okay, that GIF, that GIF that has like Kirk, McCoy, and Scotty all nodding to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They need to make one of those out of this episode, because everybody just nodded at each other the whole time.
Yeah.
This is so much nodding.
I'm calling all the GIF makers out there. Make a new GIF.
So that was the great thing about the final like siege, right? So you have like Ahsoka down the end of the one street before she goes off and like takes down the various soldiers one by one, and then you have the standoff between Mando and Kyle Lang. Thank you. Just gonna call him Kyle Reese.
Lang.
And at which
he even
point,
has kind of an Asian name.
Yeah, and it occurred to me you basically have a samurai movie and a Western happening at the same time.
A Western,
right?
Mm-hmm.
With just a wall in between them.
Yeah, I love the whole bit with them listening to the fight happening beyond the wall.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
That was some really brilliant writing and editing in there.
And the tension of him like slowly edging his way closer, doing the classic, Western quick draw standoff.
The hand on the by the holster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers twitching just ever so slightly.
It was that was very classic. They did good things with that.
I just saw the time, and we haven't even talked about any of the Easter eggs, and I only have 4 this time.
Easter eggs.
Yeah,
Easter eggs.
The rest we'll do in like little short videos or something. But okay, can I go through my Easter eggs real quick?
Do it.
Okay, so if you look very, very closely when Mando is walking towards the area where Ahsoka Tano is, you'll notice that there's an owl in a tree, right? And which is sort of indicative, or we're assuming it's kind of like the Mirai, right? And we talked about the daughter and how she sacrificed herself so that Ahsoka Tano could live. But what we didn't talk about is that she then became what is almost like a spirit animal in the form of a Mirai, right? Of a bird that follows Ahsoka Tano around. And so the idea is that bird in that tree was probably the daughter as the Mirai.
Right.
So I just wanted to point that out, because if it's a blink and you'll miss it moment.
I did notice the owl, and I'd also thought of the night owls because of her connection to that as well. But
a little like double entendre action going on, all those layers. Okay, and then the next one was, of course, we saw Ahsoka and Grogu having their telepathic conversation, and when she brings Mando back into it, and she says, I've only ever seen one person who is like this creature, and that is Master Yoda. And if you listen really closely, you can hear a little bit of the John Williams Yoda theme in the background as Grogu looks at her, because it seems like he recognizes the name Yoda. You hear that little bit of the Yoda theme in the background.
There was
so light.
There was also another really light leitmotif callback too. In the first sequence, the first time they have the hero shot of Ahsoka, they actually run Ahsoka's leitmotif theme from the Clone Wars.
Oh,
actually.
See, I didn't even notice that.
Very nice.
Yeah. And the I sense much fear in you line, that's exactly what Yoda said to Anakin right, in The Phantom Menace. It's
Yeah.
word for word what he said to him when he's presented to the Jedi Council as a candidate for training to be a Padawan, a youngling Padawan.
She also borrows straight out of Obi-Wan's line from Episode 4. The Force is what gives the Jedi's power.
Very nice. Okay, and then we get this. Of course, the main point of this episode is that Ahsoka Tano is trying to get a name out of the great, right? And what we finally find out is that she's looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is unique in that he's one of the few characters that was part of the extended universe that when Disney bought Star Wars, they pretty much threw out that whole extended universe, right? But it was such a popular character in the books that Dave Filoni brought him in to Rebels, and I think he made his debut towards the end of season 3, and then season 4 really focused on Thrawn, right?
Right. Well, and it also Thrawn is a very important factor for the end of the Rebels series and how
we see him disappearing into hyperspace alongside Ezra Bridger, right?
Yes.
And there was, if you look really closely, there's a Loth cat there as well, which are from Ezra's home planet. So I was wondering if that was like a little teaser that we were going to perhaps see Ezra come in at some point.
Well, okay, before you get too far away from Thrawn, though, right? So the other thing too is that there's also another little hint at this when you see the HK droids. So first of all, quickly, HK droids are a reference to, well, it's a double reference, right? There's a reference to the HK droids from Knights of the Old Republic video game, where you had a really
HK-47s instead of
who was
the
like
87s.
a really like jerk of a droid who is one of your party, but then these are HK, what are they, 87s?
87s, yeah.
And they actually have a logo printed on the side, which is the logo for the 7th Fleet, which was Thrawn's fleet that handled the embargo of Lothal in Rebels.
And then my last one, since we're really going over here, is that Tython, one of the sacred Jedi sites, that is originally the home of the Jedi Order, which was the predecessor of the Jedi. So just a little like history throw out there. And the rest of the Easter eggs I'll go in through later. We'll do some little clips or something.
Yeah, so what we're doing, as Tracy's referring to there, is a series of little Easter egg videos. There are so many in this show that we just want to probably put them out into a separate, their own separate little videos. So if you have any suggestions for those or something you'd like to see along that line, make sure you let us know in the comments or on our YouTube channel or anything like that. And I got to say, you seem very comfortable saying Grogu. Now. Grogu.
People are mad. We'll get used to it. Live with it. It's done. Can't
People were mad. People were mad it wasn't Boba Fett. They got over that real fast.
I mean, it's better than Yaddle.
It is better than Yaddle.
I like that name much better.
Really?
Yeah, Yaddle. I don't know. Yaddle, Yoda. See, it all kind of flows there. You know, Grogu. It sounds like it could be an infection of some type.
He's
you got
from
the
another
Grogu.
part of the planet. They got different dialects. It's still double two
Baby
syllable
Yoda.
vowel ending.
People are still gonna call him Baby Yoda. I'm gonna still call him Baby Yoda.
We've become too accustomed.
Well, he is a baby of Yoda's species, so Baby Yoda is still technically correct.
And considering that there's a good possibility that Yoda trained him, it's still Baby Yoda is still very applicable, right?
Okay, but is he Yoda and
Yaddle's baby? Like that's now that we know he was on course.
Oh.
Well, and who took
theory?
Who took Grogu? Was it Yaddle? Was it Obi-Wan? Was it Mace Windu? We don't know if Mace Windu survived.
That's a really interesting, actually, place of story, right? Like they just refer to that time after the fall of the Jedi Temple is just where his memory goes dark. We don't know if he was, frozen in carbonite or if he was under care of someone else. I mean, that's an interesting story for another day.
Jason is screaming no at us right now. he says Yocasta knew maybe.
So,
oh my god,
excellent.
it's 8:20.
Hey, so yes, any thoughts really quickly, guys, on what's coming up next? We did this last time. We have 3 more episodes remaining. What are we looking forward to seeing? Andy, I know you had some notes.
Robert Rodriguez reported that Robert Rodriguez is going to direct this next episode. So I'm expecting this to be like bonkers action.
Yeah, and out of control stuff. And we also have Moff Gideon. He's got to do his thing. They've been slow building up. I expect that'll be like the last episode with more of him involved, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if we'll see like come to fruition like if they'll actually pay off the Boba Fett tease, if Fennec Shand will show up again, or if, because I don't feel like we're going to see any new characters now. I feel like they spent enough time.
Yeah, if they introduce new characters, I don't know. I think that's a little. I'm getting back to our fan servicey thing. I think they have enough to deal with here.
Yeah.
All right. Any thoughts on that, Lexi?
Kind of agreeing with you guys. I don't think that they can add a lot more without taking up too much time away from wrapping up what they've already introduced. So I'm really hoping for a little bit more touching back on that Darksaber and kind of tying things together, because they've introduced a lot of great elements, kind of anchoring this storyline into the Star Wars universe even more than before.
I think so too. So that about wraps up. Thank you, Trey, for Easter eggs.
I'm not allowed to have an opinion, I guess. That's cool. It's okay. I've already.
No, you didn't do the wave hand thing. Okay. I thought you usually like wave your hand, or Oh, we got questions?
I used that for no. I was answering question. They're asking. There's all kinds of things about how Andy, who just disappeared, about how his Grogu has no face, and I'm saying, yeah, it's really creepy. He's not a very good dad like Jen. We're bonding, me and the chat people. So
Chat's having fun. That's good. Yeah, I wanted to get on him about his little the shoulder Yoda. That's funny. Shoulder baby Yoda. All right, so I guess I'll have to give Andy his own little outro here. So listen, that's getting towards the end of our time here with the Pod Squadron podcast. We really thank everybody for joining us. Do not forget, we have outlets here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, however you like to connect. Our podcast is up and going, and all the audio from this is uploaded to our podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. If we don't have your favorite player, please contact us through whatever means you like and let us know, and we will get your podcast player added. And Andy is the fight choreographer, performer, puppeteer, and director known as the Chinese Pirate. You can find him online at Chinese Pirate _ in most places. Tracy, where can they find you?
Facebook at Hot Nerd Girl, Instagram Hot Nerd Girl Official, Twitter at Hot_Nerd_Girl.
And Lexi?
My Instagram is Kaleidoscope Creature, and from there you can find the rest of my creative endeavors. All right, have a good night.
I did look up Kaleidoscope Creature last week when you mentioned that. That's pretty cool stuff you got going on there. Excellent.
Oh yeah, I picked that because there's too many things that I do.
You are Kaleidoscope. And I am Mr. Benja from the 8-Bit Cubist. You can find me at mrbenja.com, and you can laugh at how busted my website is. And everything that we're doing here, we're putting out through the Pod Squadron channels. As we said before, be sure to check with us every week here on Twitch. Twitch.tv/pangeekery is probably where you'll find us. But just keep up and you'll find all the new information, all the new news. Contact us, let us know what's going on. We're trying to be an interactive show here. We love you and thank you. And that is our show for this week.